Hey folks, welcome to episode 41 of Biomassed tonight. We've got a pretty full house tonight, and we're going to be talking to you about just an absolutely jam-packed docket of topics tonight, most of which will be coming from Soraya Zell. Apparently he's got a pocket full of things to lay on us, and it should be pretty interesting as always. And if you believe that, Kane Spero's got a bridge to sell you. So on that note, we're going to dive right in, guys. We're going to talk a little bit about some war barge updates. And a little bit of discussion kind of about what we think is going on based on the feedback that's going on to Rattati and some of the dangling participles that are up there that we might expect in either the next hotfix or the next patch. I'm not sure which one will come first. So without further ado, let's do some quick shout outs, and we're going to go from the bottom of the list to the top. So Soraya Zell, you're up first.
Yep. This is Soraya Zell, a member of CPM1 and a co-host here on the show.
Awesome. And Pokey?
I'm Pokey Draven from OSG Planetary Operations and a co-host here on Biomassed.
Kane?
Kane Spero, former member of the CPM and leader of the Negative Feedback Alliance.
Good deal. Jadek?
Jadek Menaheim here, CEO of Zerg Cloud Consortium and member of Signal Cartel and EVE Online.
Godin?
Godin Thekiller, Fish Overlord, and apparently an OP pilot.
Okay. Gand?
Yeah, so I'm the Gand, just a solo player, and well, I haven't played Dust in a while, but yeah, that's what I mostly do, just play solo. Haven't really been playing Dust much, so probably won't have much to really say about it, but other than that, not really that important, so yeah.
Okay, all right, and I'm Jason Larison. I'm one of the co-hosts here on Biomass. I fly with Agni Unleashed on the EVE side, and I'm also a member of OSG Planetary Operations on Dust. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and move to our CPM update with Soraya Zell.
It's been a slow week.
Yes, go on.
Well, you put me on the spot for nothing here. I got nothing for you this week. I'm sorry.
Dang.
The quiet after the storm, picking up the pieces.
You know, we got feedback coming in, and we're reviewing it, and CCP's reviewing it, and you guys are pretty much seeing everything that's going on in terms of blue posts.
So you have no idea how incredibly glad I am that we have a CPM right now. Okay. Well, I guess my question then is, what are we looking at for the next, release of stuff? Would it be a hotfix, or will it be the Warlord like 1.1? What do you think we're going to see first?
Well, I don't know if where the status is on scheduling for that yet. I don't know if everyone's aware, but this is roughly coming up here is the Chinese New Year. So that's like when people can get like lined up and shot if they work during this like really long holiday. So it's kind of a break that they've got to work around. But I don't know if you noticed, but they've actually updated the development roadmap a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they basically, if I'm not mistaken, there's a little bit of reordering and readjusting some of the some of the things that they had listed by point release, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they moved a few things around, and they've kind of spec'd out, before the roadmap ended at 1.1, and they've now kind of shaped up a 1.2 and a 1.1s.
Yeah, I did notice that, but I didn't see any mention of a hotfix, so that's why I was sort of asking.
Yeah, the hotfixes don't go on the roadmap, and I'm not sure, because I think the main topic for the hotfix would be the halves, and I don't know when that's going to drop comparatively to the next release.
Okay, yeah, and like I said, I was kind of wondering because they did at least post facto list the hotfixes pretty well, which. And previously, like the balance type activity that would go into those was pretty well documented in terms of when it was coming out. So that's hence my question. Okay, well, if we were pretty thin on CPM1 news tonight, I think we're kind of pretty thin on a lot of news tonight, but that's okay. Let's kind of move right into a recap of what the adjustments were to ease some of the pain points from the dropping of Warlords 1.0. euphemistically known as like Warlord, I guess, I don't know, ISK/RM real money extravaganza. Generally what they did, if I'm not mistaken, is broach the secondary ways of easing the pain points. They really didn't touch too far onto actually adjusting anything related to the war barge itself in terms of component generation or the time for the cooldowns. So it's pretty much mostly making war barge components more available during the end of match salvage. And there were some reasonably nice tweaks to the lock boxes and the availability of the hacked decryption keys, which then makes some of the war barge components a little bit more likely to drop, if you will. So what are you guys' general thoughts on what they've done over the last, I guess, week and a half to sort of ease some of the concerns with warlords?
It helps, but it's not enough.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where numbers need to be tuned, and numbers are being tuned, and we're seeing. So like I've played somewhere in the realm of 10 matches this week, I think, and I've gotten twice. I got decent chunks of war barge components out of end of match salvage. Once I got 200, and once I got 50. And then of course there's I think it's guaranteed now that once a day there will be a mission that rewards keys. So that would be the other thing, is that there's now a little bit more key guarantee as well.
Yeah, that's been particularly nice. I mean, with the event going on, it's kind of hard to kind of gauge that as it goes on, but knowing that you're getting a key if you participate in a match and win, it's nice to kind of take down your stockpile of boxes slowly but surely.
I still contend that the best thing you do with locked boxes is somehow transfer them over to Minecraft and build a castle.
The other, in terms of war barge components, the other interesting thing that they added was missions that reward war barge components. I mean, into the thousands of war barge components.
I still haven't seen one of those.
Yeah, I've heard about that, but I haven't seen one of those either.
I lucked out and got one that gave me it was 10 wins for 1,000 war barge components.
That's retarded.
I'm not complaining.
And a bunch of ambush matches.
I loathe ambush, especially since I can't use my glorious Matties.
And as Soraya stated, I've been seeing the similar thing, like, get 50 components here, 200 components there, 100 components here. It's not like every match at all. It's definitely kind of a random thing, but they're there.
I'm still getting spams on matches where I don't get anything, so
Yeah, I know that they if I'm not mistaken, they wanted to increase the ceiling of what you were getting out of the lock boxes, and they lifted the floor, so to speak. So they chopped off some of the basic and standard stuff that you would get in the lock boxes. But I just opened like 10 up yesterday, and I got, I want to say, got 2 or 3 drops that were like officer gear, like named officer weapons and stuff like that. But pretty much everything else was like basic or standard Orem gear.
Yep, that's what I've been getting.
The other thing
that needs to be fixed, and if you see it, report what the item is and send in a ticket or something like that. And they may even like grant you back your key and lockbox or something.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I would think so. I would give it a shot and see what you get.
I think for me the big thing is that
wouldn't hurt to
we talked
ask.
about this before, that my main issue was that the non-Orem side of the war barge was entirely passive. You could do nothing to increase your production rate or actively generate components, and I think that this definitely gives you a means to actually get components on a more active scale because you're playing the game rather than sitting and watching it tick along. So I think this is an excellent move in the right direction.
Real quick, Iron Wolf, you mind giving and Lethargic, you guys mind giving a quick intro?
Hello, I'm CPM1 Iron Wolf. I'm here to annoy people.
That's usually Sorai's job. Lethargic?
Yeah.
He is not pushing the button. One question. So, like, in the end of match...
My name is Lethargic. I've been a career heavy. Been playing Dust since January 2013.
Awesome. Thank you very much. One of the things I noticed was the actual salvage that you get at the end of match, like the broken coil assembly and the, smashed whoop-de-whoop or whatever the stuff is, which is kind of cool, and usually nets you a decent little bit of ISK per unit, but I think I would actually rather just be getting modules or warbarge components right now. Does that make sense?
They sound like rigs, like rig components.
Yeah, but there's nothing you can do with them. They're literally.
I know, I get
just
that.
so-
I'm just
Well,
saying
they're
they sound
meant
like
to
rig
be
components.
inevitably crafting materials at some point.
Yeah, so I don't,
This
I
is
don't-
like, why is it in there if it has no purpose?
Because
it's
it's
kind
loot.
of
You can sell it. They're worth as much as like a drop suit in a lot of cases.
sometimes more. I mean, well, there's one that's
Yeah.
like sells for 60,000 or 40 to 60,000 ISK for just one of them.
The highest one I've gotten is like 50, I think.
That sounds about right.
It's just another way to add some more random ISK reward to matches.
I'd still rather have vehicle parts, which I hardly get any ever. So
Hey, well, maybe we can work that in.
please
Well,
do
see,
that.
I got like a Quaif turret in one of my boxes, and it's completely useless to me.
Give it to me, I'll use it.
I don't want to give it to you.
You can give it
You'll
to me.
shoot me with it.
That's the no. Actually, this is what I'll do. If anyone gives me anything, I'll make sure not to shoot you for 10 matches with that thing. How about that?
Sign on your death certificate.
Yeah, I got a Quaif HAV and a Quaif turn to go with it over yesterday.
I
Give me
I bought
now.
the Quaif Lav BPO bundle thing that was on sale this weekend. I think it's still on sale.
The stupid Valentine's Day thing?
Yes, I totally bought that.
The
Yeah.
lab combo.
Yes.
Hey, guess what? I already had both of them, so
Yeah, shut up and die with your stupid luck.
Actually, I did have a quick question in reference BPOs and such. Totally non sequitur too, just not related to the war barge thing. But I noticed that Ritadia dropped a couple notes about the whole like wanting to have like a skin slot in the
yes.
on the drop suits. Is that literally him dreaming on a whiteboard, or are they actually actively trying to work on that?
It is not dreaming.
The way he posted about it sounded like they had done some kind of technical breakthrough, because I know that's something that's been kind of a thorn in CCP's side, to say the least.
You know, it'd be funny if we beat Eve Online to it.
Oh my gosh, it'd be amazingly funny.
That was
Eve's
so
only been
good.
Eve's only wanted to do it for what? How many years? They've been talking about for I don't know, at least half a decade.
At least 3.
The ability to sell just a skin, and also not only have the ability to maybe divest the current BPOs that we have. So you have maybe something I've heard. It was an idea is that for every BPO you currently have, you get the skin pulled out of it, and then you get like the standard BPO version of it, the skinless version.
That'd be cool.
They were also
That was
looking
so
at it
cool.
from a performance improving standpoint too, which is
That-
interesting.
Yeah, that
I did
was.
catch that. That was very interesting the way they laid that out. I would have not thought that would have been something that would have increased the performance of the game, but at this point, I think it also strikes me that no matter like however they put this game together, it is so Rubik's cubed and Jenga pieced together that they're finding all these very interesting ways of increasing capabilities within the game when they basically go in and untangle the knots, so to speak.
And finding ways to make more money.
That's an added bonus for them, apparently.
Different
Well-
skins, pay to win.
Yeah.
Your skin killed me.
Well,
Her-induced
Here's
nanocoating
the
is
thing,
the
like,
death of us
that's-
all.
Like cosmetics and stuff like that is generally something that nobody complains about unless they're just absolutely ridiculously priced, because there's basically no benefit other than the swag that you get to watch pretty much only in your merc quarters, because you're under the optimal conditions. You're in the war barge like 40 seconds maybe.
Remember when everyone complained about the Quaif suits being too bright?
I was so
They
sad that
weren't
got nerfed.
ever too bright. They were
That-
sexy before.
They need
now
to
they're
be,
ugly.
They need to be buffed. Shininess needs to be buffed.
What color are they now? The same
They're
color?
like a purple. They used. You remember the bright pink color?
They're Saints Row purple.
Yeah, it's so ugly.
That
It's
does
so
feel
ugly.
like I'm playing Saints
No.
Row. But I
Maybe
do
we
have to say,
change
I
that.
still love my Dren suits because they look like shit and they blend in with the environment nicely.
It's funny because it's true.
We have shitty environments. Is that what you're saying?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's all
The shrubs
the
that
color
are
tone, yeah.
spawning in is annoying. Just saying. Just saying.
Well, that's also a nice part of it, though, is that some of the suits that no one uses, but they have them, like the skin weaves, it would be kind of cool to actually be able to pull the skin off of that and put it on something that's a little more useful, like a standard suit.
Yeah, that would be nice. But I still love my skin weave Logi. That thing's amazing.
I'm still kicking myself. I'd signed up in 2012, but I didn't play for a little bit, so I'd missed that event.
I actually did the event, but I got all the suits, right? My scout was missing, and they said that I didn't actually get the scout. But I clearly have pictures of it. I sent them the pictures, and they said that those were fake. Yeah. Sport team hates me. They never giving back any of my HAVs that I lose either. For
I would, yeah, and
DCs.
why would we give you HAVs back?
Because I'm special, that's why.
Okay, all right. Remember what I told you before we started the show? Like 3 words: push to talk.
I'm scowling at you right now, Pokey.
Oh my God. Okay, I feel that I've won the game now. Okay.
He's not poking.
Really? Oh, you two sound alike. My bad, Jay.
We sound nothing alike.
They don't sound
You
anything.
do. Through my headphones, every headphone that I buy, you two sound exactly alike. I don't know why.
As absolutely much as I know that is a great way to live pokey spirits by saying that,
It's true.
Not true.
He's good with the words, and I don't speak so good.
Okay, so now that
He's good with the words, but not good with the numbers, as our episode count determines.
True.
Well, that's absolutely fair. So now that we've totally divested from anything that's remotely related in game,
it's one of those shows.
Yeah, no, well, and this is actually what happens, guys. Is what we basically have is there was a big rush of information and content, and kind of the build up, and then suddenly it comes out. There's some rage, there's some hate, or there's some good feelings. It doesn't matter what the reaction is. There's going to be about a week of reaction, and then it's kind of like everybody's sort of waiting for whatever the next thing is. Next, actually, when you look at the roadmap, the next thing is the actual drop of PC stuff. And right now, what I'm tracking is a pretty deep backlog for Rattati of a lot of things that have been talked about ad nauseum, or forum thread knotted to death, and all this other jazz, but no idea exactly when it's going to come in. So you've got the Mongo HAV vehicle threads that have been going on for quite a while. The Logis are, still haven't been touched, and I know that there's been multiple Booyah forum threads about that, and a lot of discussion about when that update's going in. And so there's this huge backlog of fairly significant, balance-related stuff that's out there. But one thing that did catch my eye was, yet again, another, wow, I think we need to tweak rifles post by CCP Rattati, which I, for the life of me,
nerf my
can't
beloved
fucking...
rail rifle again.
Well, not only that, but I just it seems like there are so many other things that we need to be, in terms of just balance stuff, literally spreadsheet number tweaks. There are so many other things that need to get a glove laid on them other than rifles.
I think to some degree it was meant to be and I don't know if he set himself a reminder of it or what, but kind of just check back to see, he had showed the data before and how that, what that meant and what he wanted to do about it, and then he made his changes, and now he's saying, so this is the results of that.
Yeah, he's just giving it seemed more like here's an update on this aspect of the game, more than I'm going to go out of my way to be doing things type of post. That's how I read it.
And then there was another post, which he then linked back to that one, which is the first time I saw that very crazy looking graph he's got, that somebody said, hey, I think rail rifles are still OP. And he basically said, yeah, I think so too, or, clearly implying as much as you can imply in a forum post of 10 words, that he was going to do something about it, which he then linked back to the graph, the graph porn thread. So it just struck me that why in the world would we be messing with this? And then of course Breakin tries to jump in about three or four places to try to turn it into an HMG thread. So
he actually did respond to it about the HMG though, and that they were looking at a range reduction, I think.
That's crazy.
What?
They actually added range to them earlier because they were so bad.
The thing is, even looking at this graph here, because I believe this graph is showing number of kills per spawn, so it's not just raw usage, it's basically how many kills does each weapon get before it dies. And the rail rifle isn't even looking that bad compared to the rest of them. It's basically the assault rifle, the plasma rifle, that just sucks. Everything else looks actually fairly decent in just eyeballing it here.
Yeah, I think he called out like the assault scrambler, the burst, and
the TAC.
Yeah, the TAC AR is things that needed to get buffed.
I don't know. The TAC AR is not bad, and the burst AR is not bad. I don't know. Maybe people just, I don't know, aren't good at using them yet or something. I don't know.
Or they're afraid to.
Well, now there's one factor in this that is because somebody kind of poked at him on the forums, and he basically said, "Hey, we've balanced these with numbers and data and all this other stuff." He's right, we did, but there's a factor that I don't know how you quantify, but I'm fairly confident is out there is just like SP saturation in a given weapon. So if the Who's Its rifle is perceived as being the go-to rifle for a very long time, you're going to have a disproportionate amount of player SP sunk into that weapon until it changes, and then and honestly, then you get a certain amount of sunk cost of like, wow, I've already sunk a ton of SP into this thing. I'm going to keep using it, even when it's sort of quote unquote brought back into line. So I don't really know how you capture that, but I would suspect that there's a little bit of that going on with some of these numbers. But I don't know. That's just me. But like I said, the overall thing for me was I was just really surprised. I appreciate that he's kind of going back and showing us where the data is, but I really don't want to talk about like messing around with another rifle bump when there's so many other things that need to get tweaked or that they could tweak in terms of numbers or spreadsheet type stuff.
Possibly the other reason why they're touching rifles so much is the fact that it's the first weapons that most shooters introduce you to.
How about like I got it, but my God, I mean, you're only going to make this thing so good. That's and frankly, the rifles are not in a bad spot.
They aren't.
No, they're pretty good. I think they're actually gotten a pretty good spot right now.
Just a few side variants here and there, just being a little out of line.
Yeah,
very slightly.
I mean, I could see that. I mean, there's definitely. I mean, there's always going when you look at the raw number of weapon types in the game. There's always going to be something that's not where we want it. But it just again strikes me that there's a lot of other things that could be touched on. For example, assault suit bonuses, the Logi suits, the HAVs, of which there's a mountain of feedback and data on right now. Does that make sense? It just seems like there's other bigger fish to fry that need a cut at them, because I think he's taken several pretty good, by pretty good I mean pretty productive strokes at the basic rifles. Like the sidearms probably need a relook. In all honesty, some of the specialty weapons definitely need a relook.
Well, the other thing that usually helps Rattati out is the fact that he builds up a basis for each his mounts, his sprints, so to say, that he gets information that he needs before he starts making these choices, and because he's done it on the rifles before, most of that information is still relative. Whereas with vehicles, lodges, and a few other issues that are still outstanding, we have yet to fully do that yet.
Wait, yet to fully do what?
Gone out and done all the homework, so to say.
We have for vehicles. Well, as far as HAVs goes, anyways.
I think he means like not player feedback, right? You mean actual like data pulls and stuff?
Not just data pulls, but more like the design goals and ideas.
So yet again,
foundation building, so to say.
I guess the fact that we haven't done that yet is surprising to me and a bit concerning.
Well, it was like that when he got here, so he basically is starting from scratch.
Okay.
I think what Jason is saying is that stop kicking the balanced horse and move on to something else. If you have the data pool for the rifles, that's great and all, but if something else is broken, then start pulling the data for that. I mean, that should be top priority.
It is not so much about trying to pull data, it is more about figuring out the intention.
Well, and that should be a priority, is what I'm saying.
And again, I would even offer that I'm not sure that we know what the actual base concept for all the primary rifles is, but at this point, I I just think that there's like we're letting other areas of the game sort of languish a little bit when there could be at least incremental or partial updates to that. That would probably be a pretty solid, be fairly positively received by a lot of players. And it just strikes me that that's something that could be done. I don't want to say should be done because that's there's some implications there, but I think it's more along the lines of I think it's about time to have touched certain things that we haven't touched, if that makes sense.
It definitely, for sure. It's not. It shouldn't be an excuse to not do it. It's just that there are reasons why things take time.
I think something that the player base would really appreciate is something along the roadmap, like a roadmap for hotfixes. Like what is the planned progression of things he's going to fix in what order? I think people would
actually be very welcome. I mean, if you think about it, it would fit very nicely because effectively the hotfixes have really become, for the most part, synonymous with balance updates, like things that are directly impacting inside the match that is not necessarily new content. And so there's a clear rhythm to that where a quote-unquote patch or a release gives you some things that were not in the game previously or major, like fairly major in changes, whereas the hotfixes give you much more what we would consider balance or bug fixes that really affect pure in-game activity. So I think a hotfix, I want to say roadmap, that's probably too strong of a term, but like at least sort of that planned break of what the hot fixes are, that would, sort of what his order of march is, if you will, for some of those things. That would really be handy.
Well, not to mention, kind of gives people a chance to kind of think about, what, at least in terms of what the player base thinks about what those concepts are you were talking about. Like, what is the design goal? And it gets people thinking and a little more focused rather than running all over the place with, 20 different topics. They can focus on maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, laser pointers are usually helpful for that, for herding cats.
Very Godin-esque comment.
It is.
Totally no idea what you just said there.
Laser pointers are used for herding cats, aka throwing them out the window.
What?
This is going.
Push to talk and don't touch the button. Okay, so on that note, I guess we can kind of look at what do we think is going on in the next, and I guess the next update, if you will. We'll just kind of call it that as we're kind of reviewing the Trello board. So, but correct me if I'm wrong, Soraya. You said earlier that like hotfix-like stuff doesn't make it onto the roadmap or the Trello board, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, it sees roadmap is client-side patches, and hotfixes are, server-side changes.
Yep. No, that would be accurate.
And I think the big board of things has, I don't know if it has anything about hotfix echo in it, but that generally had a lot of the hotfix information on it.
It doesn't.
Hotfix Echo is a title that I think should officially burn because it's been trotted out like 5 times.
Like Tani, by the way.
Yeah, it's there was like a patch. There was a hotfix that was like just like the hotfix after a patch, and then there was like technically this recent change was like the hotfix of February whatever, that changed like the keys and the missions and the components and drops and stuff like that. And it's like we've so jumped the shark on hotfix naming from the easy alpha, bro. Charlie.
What happened was though is hotfix echo came out, and it was like, we're going to do things with vehicles, and there was that oh crap moment that vehicles are hard to actually, that there's a lot of work that has to be done into vehicles. And so hotfix echo is kind of like the vehicle hotfix. And that's why I think it keeps on kind of like simmering in the background, because it's still associated with all those vehicle changes.
And I think it's funny that we're still nowhere even near to covering vehicles in total. We've only done AJVs and AV so far.
Well, when it's as screwed up as it was, or is rather, you got to do a lot of work to get in a better place.
And then even then, we still haven't even done HEVs yet, because we still haven't gave them a solid role.
Well, we sort of have, but that's a whole other topic.
The thing I find interesting about the roadmap, though, with the 1.1 and 1.2, The tentative deployment quarter 2 has been moved over to the 1.2, and 1.1 does not have currently a tentative deployment kind of sticker on it, like all the other ones have had. Maybe it's somewhere between now and quarter 2.
So
Who knows?
I'm sitting here looking at. I'm trying to correlate Rattati's board and then the roadmap. And under Rattati's board, what it's got is if you work from right to left, it has all the hot fixes and up to the point release, the patch releases for Warlords, right? And then it goes basically Warlords 1, Warlords 1.1, then it goes balance hot fixes, and under that column it goes like 1.9, 1.10, 1.10.1, and that kind of stuff. And then under the next column is next hot fix. So let me read off a couple of those real quick. All races get frontline fits. Started fits are not up to par. Increased faction loss when fighting for wrong faction. Packed RE AV variant with no blast radius. Increased cloak fitting bonus or reduce cloak cost for standard and advanced. Change Caldari scan bonus and reduce active scan ranges. Let's see. Do smart things with basic frames. Okay. Very Icelandic of him. Remove bonus to cloak fitting on logistic suits. Content bring back initiative, reload timer, missile bonus, large turret tweaks, increase tank momentum, lav shields, lower recharge threshold. Did some of this already go in?
Yeah, this actually looks like some older. Well, yeah, because the RE change is already live on the server.
Yeah, that's what I was
You
thinking.
gotta bear in
But it
mind,
says next hotfix, so it kind of
you
confused
have to bear in mind with the big board of things. That's very much it's not really a board you can use to figure out what's coming next, because it isn't like this really carefully organized thing. It's just like it's a work area, and you've got to just use it as, yes, he's aware of this issue, because that's really all that board is for. That it is not meant to indicate anything else except for he's aware of this feedback or idea or issue or thing. It doesn't mean anything about when it's coming or if it's coming. So that's the thing you have to bear in mind, the big board of things. It's the absolutely most ethereally tentative thing that CCP is letting you see.
Yeah.
Does he mean by increased tank momentum?
I'm guessing it means you have a harder time stopping once you get going. So if you throw it in reverse, it's going to take a little bit to slow down to a full stop. And then
thank God, 'cause that's annoying. That inertia. It just goes complete stop. It is to me.
Well, it's unrealistic. It's kind of the same problem you have with strafing and drop suit. The ability to be basically sprinting sideways at stop and go the other direction instantaneously is a little unrealistic.
Yeah, that's kind of annoying too.
The day that they can move the wiggle strafe out of this game, I will probably be fairly happy with that.
From a CSGO player, I actually heard an interesting term that they use for that exact type. It's called like ADADing.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
Sense.
I'm looking over some of the cards here, and I'm trying to find one that was here a while back. One on that new MCC construction one. I don't know if they've decided to up that in the rotation or just what are they planning to do with that?
Oh, that map is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It seems like it's their first attempt at like amalgamating different map sockets together, because it's got parts of the small bridge, the production facility, and like the tabletop from Line Harvest.
I feel like they took all of the. I feel like they took all of like the Lego. It's like somebody had a bin full of Lego pieces that they've had so far from all the different things that they've done, and somebody just dumped it all out on the ground and assembled a map together, and it works. Like some things don't actually even make sense on the map, but it works, and it's a fun map so far. That I every time I played on it, it's been pretty entertaining.
Which map are you talking about?
It's a very rare one. It's a MCC construction yard.
Yep, you only get it on if you play skirmish in public matches. It's a 3-point map. It has an MCC literally docked and being worked on or having something like that. And then it has a lot of catwalks and platforms and stuff underneath the MCC. C is located in the center of map underground. Then you have A is actually on like a tabletop type platform. And then you have B like over on the other side. They're kind of in a line.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I just played on that map. That one's actually really fun.
Yeah, they really need to increase the rotation of that map. It is quite good, actually.
It's been increased significantly this week as opposed to last week. That's for sure.
I used to hate it. The first time I played on it, I absolutely hated it, but now it's like really good. That one in the cow production facility, yeah, those two are really good maps.
It still suffers from like there's some areas like you can't jump through because it's like a texture wall.
Yeah.
But I'm just curious if this is the direction they're going to be taking, like with the whole like Lego construction forge mode sort of thing, with like putting together existing sockets in this way.
Well, that was kind of the original idea, was that, if I'm not mistaken, is that the maps, like the terrain is what it is, but the sockets should be able to, in theory, you should be able to plop the sockets down anywhere on the map.
It's the blending of sockets together that's what's got me interested. Yeah.
I just realized something. 6 and 4 man squads don't really work looking at vehicles as far as the seat layouts go. Just realized that.
Okay.
Because dropships have 6 slots, right? But that's assuming that your pilot and the 2 gunners stays in. It's only 4, so you can't really carry a whole squad with you. HEVs only have 3, so that kind of works with it, but that doesn't work with 4-man squads. And there's a whole bunch of little things I was just thinking about that really won't work if you have 6 or 4-man squads.
I don't think it's going to be a matter of not working.
No, it's like it's wonky and it's like not very efficient.
That's when you call in a second vehicle.
Yeah,
the way we used to do it when we have 4-man squads.
I would actually like to see 3-man squads. That would work for all of them.
That makes no sense.
That 3 men's not a squad.
That's like a fire team.
That's like Destiny, which sucks.
Shots fired.
Dang.
No, the whole 3-man fire team is a pain in the ass.
Or they could change the slot layouts of the vehicles.
Why would they do that, though? That works actually pretty good.
I don't think anyone's really beholden to, oh gosh, you're not in my squad, so you get out. I mean, if you're actually on comms with an organized team, I don't think anyone's going to be like, remiss of.
It just bothers me. I don't know why.
Okay. I mean, before we did that, I would rather them add 18 players per team and have 3 6-man squads and call it good.
Okay. Yeah, that would actually work.
Oh, goodness.
That would do it too.
Okay.
That would do it too.
What I've noticed with the new maps, though, even though that map is very complicated, it seems to perform well.
You're right. I haven't seen kind of the standard Glente lag facility type action in there.
I think a lot of it has to do with the geometry. If you think about it, all of the items on the map are of simple geometry. They're not like curved, fancy stuff like the lab has. They're all boxes and straight lines, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so you're saying the Caldari maps are OP because of straight lines?
Yeah, because of straight lines. They're flat, therefore, yeah.
Well, I honestly don't know what causes lag in this game, because every time I think I've got it figured out, I'm proven wrong or proven that there's other factors. So I've kind of since given that up. I mean, lag is one of these things that's very, very hard to put your finger on, because there's a lot of different things you might be experiencing. But for whatever reason, the Glente research facility, that thing was always a problem. And in fact, to this day, can get that way occasionally. But interestingly enough, that new the new map, the quote unquote new map, that I don't think it's really new, but just very few people actually know about it. The few times I've played in it, I've seen no drama with that thing at all. And it is a really, really good map. It's probably the best one that they've got right now, at least in terms of the construction facility component of it. And it would probably be really good to get that into more rotation. I'd love to see that for PCs, actually.
Bertani actually made a specific post about how they were actually looking to change how they designed the maps to be a little bit smaller and a little bit more with the items of simple geometry on them to improve performance.
Oh no.
Well, I mean, maybe
there's nothing wrong with Lego maps. I mean, Halo Forge does it.
No, I like it. That's the thing. Everyone that I've played with on that map has liked the map. It was really funny though because it doesn't pop up immediately like on the overview. So like one person in my squad's like, "Oh, we're fighting on a racetrack." It looks like, and then they load in, and then there's the MCC and all the other structures.
There's been another thing that's like glitching out with those new maps or the new socket types is the camera freezes end of match, and it's interesting how it's like. Sometimes it focuses on a player, and I don't know. Maybe it's just me, just having looked at like the wide camera pan, like of the MCC and the large battle sockets. But it's kind of a nice, refreshing thing to just see the mercs for a change, just kind of freeze frame.
Most of the freeze frame issues I have at the end of the match is literally it freezing on the victory screen and then having to restart my PS3.
Well, it's freezing on the. Those victory screen freezes are actually the fact they don't have the cameras rigged and the animations rigged for end of match screens.
I'm surprised the RDVs on these maps are not doing something silly.
I have been seeing some like drunk RDVs lately, though. It's funny.
All my RDVs have been perfect. I'm amazed.
It's because OSHA put in all those rules about RDVs next to sockets.
and how they outlawed breakdancing for tanks.
So is it safe to say that CCP did not intend for that map to be in the last release? Is that an accident?
Both of these maps were not intended. They were accidents.
Sweet.
Really? Wow.
Sweet.
So you're saying that CCP accidentally puts in a map and it's actually one of the best ones they have?
That's just wonderful. I give them props.
Yeah.
For doing that. Yeah.
Oh, not a map, 2 maps.
No, what?
I haven't even seen the second one. What's the second one?
The second one is
it's a supply yard.
It's got a medium socket in the center, and then it's surrounded by these like. Someone said they look like the crawlers, the sand crawlers from Star Wars a little bit.
Yeah,
they actually do.
The thing is, though, the big it has like a Caldari facility that's usually like way off in the map background, but they put it up like really up close in this one. So it's this massive structure that's kind of looming over everything.
Yeah, I love that map.
It plays well as it plays pretty well as a domination map. It plays really well, I think, as a 3-point or pretty well as a 3-point skirmish map as well. I actually find the addition of 3-point skirmish maps really refreshing though. Stuff like Ashland, that's the other one that has the ship under construction that's vertical and in a vertical orientation. That one it seems like it has so many points that it's just like ring around the rosy, collect all the points, collect all the the objectives, rather than any kind of like tactical gameplay to it.
Yeah, you can't cover them all at all. Just like maybe half of them.
So I have to ask, were these new maps assets that were laying around, or have they been recently developed and produced?
They were laying around from what I know, and they basically threw them. Well, they were saying, "Well, let's give it a try."
Okay, just curious.
This makes me wonder how many other things are just laying around.
Yeah, because I've been looking over Jason Spencer's portfolio and I couldn't find them, which is kind of weird. I mean, he's the guy who designed a lot of the new map sockets, and then he left.
I'm just saying because if True Adamance finds out that they've had an Amarian tank just laying around, people will die in Shanghai. I'm just saying, he will fly out there and do it himself.
Oh, they're talking about adding laser turns for the vehicle rebalance too. Of course, those will be as reskin, but they'll just shoot lasers probably.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I want my laser. My laser heavy weapons.
I want my shotgun blaster still. Just saying.
So, have they actually worked on the actual shotgun hit detection? Is it better? I mean, I know you get blasted by a lot of scouts.
I don't know. I heard the Bonds.
It's not at all.
I heard the Bonds. So no, but I heard the Bonds shotgun actually works now.
Well,
what?
The Bonds, Espion Bonds shotgun.
The assault shotgun.
So the only reason I asked is because I was playing earlier today, and I don't use shotguns very often, but I was running around on a Black Eagle, and there's an uplink on the ground. So I walked up to it, probably about 2 meters away from it, and fired point blank at it with the shotgun. It took 2 hits, or 2 shots, missed both, walked up, put the reticle right on top of it, then shot it again before it died.
What?
I was a little bit concerned that either the shotgun had some problems or that was a really, really fucking OP uplink.
Yeah. Usually standard protocol
Well,
is
for
just to melee
reference,
it.
I shot a guy earlier in the face and he didn't die.
That will happen.
I found the
It
joy
just
is,
worked in.
hey, why use a shotgun when you can have the joys of punching people though?
Nah.
Yeah, by the way, for the record, if there were going to be, like, I know we have like these huge long lists of things we wish were done in Dust, but I would really like something other than the, like the cheap elbow of justice melee. It would be really cool if there was something a little bit more, I don't know, melee, other than just throwing a cheap elbow at somebody as your go-to attack.
Hey, just get out, break out like a forge gun, and you actually throw a fist.
Sweet.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
actually. That's true.
Time for some fisticuffs.
I want to kick somebody in the nuts.
Somebody, our squad was joking about it. They said they should release Quaif boxing gloves.
That would be
I
funny.
would
Instead of
buy
Nova
those.
knives, have like big pillows on your hands. That'd be funny.
How much damage do they do?
Probably a lot.
Fabulous.
Falcon punch.
I
I'm a
love
huge
having
fan of that.
BPO suits. BPOs are nice.
Godin, your new Biomassed nickname is Sir Apropos of Nothing.
I will take that.
Excellent. Okay, so real quick, guys. I say real quick only because we've been BSing for about 48 minutes now. We've kind of had a meandering show a little bit, and I kind of wanted to kind of steer us back a little bit as we kind of wrap things up. I think it's safe to say that we're at a point in Dust that there's a lot of couldas and shouldas out there in terms of the game. And I kind of wanted to put this in perspective, and because I generally do not play a lot of different video games. I actually play very few, mostly because it's a factor of time. I don't have a lot of time based on real life job and all that kind of stuff. So, like over the last week or two, and I mentioned it last week, I had played some PS4. So I played Call of Duty and played Battlefield 4. And I saw a smattering of other games, like non-first person shooter games. I will have to tell you that I was very surprised by the difference in what we play in Dust and then what's out there on the that's in other available games, even if it's on the PS4 platform. Probably because Dust is literally the only first-person shooter I've played for a couple of years now, actually, and hadn't really even messed with any of the next-gen stuff. I was amazed at how rough the game of Dust plays and looks when in comparison to sort of current-gen games. It's one of those where it kind of really sits you back and makes you think about where this game is now, and then where we I think wanted it to be, and it really makes me wonder how much they can really get out of it over the next year or 2 years. So I just kind of want to open that up real quick for a quick discussion.
It's worth noting that most or all of the resources, like in terms of graphics for Dust, was developed above what you're seeing in the client. So, like when you look at the login portraits where you see those really high resolution copies of our drop suits, that's like they can do that material, like design wise. They're just right now pushing the limits of what the PS3 can handle. So,
Really?
I mean, if they went to, if they were to say port the game to a platform that could handle more, like the PS4, they'd probably be able to do a lot of graphics improvements fairly quickly because the improved versions of those graphics already exist.
I don't really care about the graphics. I just want to have decent movement. Like, say if I could move my scout like I can move a hunter in Destiny, that would be amazing.
Well, that is actually the other things. There is the visual component of of Dust, obviously, which and I think they've gotten about as much out of the PS3 as you could possibly get in some cases. But I will have to say just how smooth the other games run and how they feel.
Movement
Just
flow is a big deal, and
dramatically different.
I mean, like my example game that is, and I don't know if you've gotten a chance to try it out. but Titanfall is probably the smoothest motion first-person shooter I've ever played. It literally, you just glide through the level. It's fantastic. But that being said, Titanfall's, other gameplay elements aren't enough to hold your interest more than, X number of matches, because there's none of the, persistent universe type stuff that Dust at least strives for. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of room to improve in terms of movement flow. Jumping being a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all these wonderful concepts of the Eve universe and the way the weapons work and everything, and the balance is getting a lot better, and I think that's all fantastic. But I mean, when I got my PS4, I got the Destiny bundle and I played Destiny for a couple weeks, and then I came back to Dust, and you really feel how clunky Dust feels compared to modern games. I mean, it's sluggish and slow, and I think you don't really see that until you actually play something that's a lot smoother, and it's like, holy crap. And I think that's the number one thing holding them back right now is how sluggish the game feels. I mean, not that I'm advocating like you want super twitchy gameplay, because I don't particularly like that, but it's not smooth. That's a problem.
It's not about speed, it's about flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Like 12-inch high insurmountable ledges need to go.
Those are annoying. But I mean, the thing to bear in mind too is that adding a lot of motion stuff as much, and I want to see that too. That requires a huge amount of dev investment, because I mean, I don't think that's something that's probably in the capabilities of the current team, if I had to guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, none of this that we're talking about is actually in the realm of the current team. I mean, ultimately, and I think it just kind of brought a little bit of clarity to it. What it really talks about is, okay, so what's next? Like, is there going to be anything next? Because, and I'll tell you guys, Cross and I, and actually Poke and Ducks were having a good discussion about this the other week, and I told him, is like, look, if my PS3 like literally catches on fire like tomorrow, I'm not buying another one just for Dust. I mean, that would not be a good a smart outlay for me as a customer. It would not, like, it would be aggravating, because there's a lot of people I wouldn't be able to play this one game with, but there's a lot of people I know from Dust that are now playing on the PS4. The game is just not compelling enough anymore to make me forego buying a PS4 and picking up a new PS3 just for like another year, maybe, or whatever the lifespan of this thing's going to be. So it's unfortunate, because I think they have so many components of potential out there, that really a great case of things not taken advantage of, and it's really frustrating.
It's like you said, Jay, obviously this isn't within the current realm of development capabilities, but I mean, I'll put my tinfoil hat on here and say it's been hinted at very strongly by many different groups that the Dust will see some sort of movement to a different platform. God only hopes it would be the PS4, but I mean, if that happens, and that's obviously a significant investment at that point, that's the ideal time to make those significant changes to the movement and the overall flow of gameplay. So, I mean, if that happens, I certainly hope it's not just them copying over the models. I hope it's actually a rebuild of the core system, like movement and graphics and whatnot. And so it's more of a Dust HD, if you will, rather than just copying things over as they are now.
I don't know. I almost get concerned about, though, because what if it almost seems like if CCP puts themselves too high of a bar just to actually make sure it can continue on another platform, then it could end up being like, well, in order to actually make this work on this other platform, we have to have X amount of resources to invest. Well, we don't have X amount of resources, so oh well.
Well, that depends on their commitment to the game and how long they want it to survive. I mean, even if you move it to the PS4, if it doesn't see some sort of significant core improvement, it's just going to fall flat on its face compared to the other sort of games that are out there, especially in the PS4 with games like Destiny and Titanfall.
Well, this game's free though, so.
Yeah, that's not an excuse that's going to hold
water
I'm not
saying,
in the long run.
As far as quality, like, they should try to make it as good as they possibly can. I'm saying this game is free. It's not guaranteed that they're going to make a profit off of it just by like people playing it. While, like, say, Destiny, to play that game, you probably will have to pay for it.
That's true, but the difference in quality between Dust and current PS4 games is so staggering that the fact that it's free is not going to be enough to bridge that difference. And they need to bring the bar up at least to some extent in order to make it perform well and sell well in terms of profitability.
Which is fair.
It'll be interesting to see though with all the stuff that happened to SOE and now Daybreak, whether or not to me I saw PS2 as PlanetSide 2 is definitely the biggest potential competitor probably for Dust on PS4, and so now that's kind of like, well, what's going to happen to it kind of deal.
Yeah, well,
True.
I mean, and that's one of those things too, is that people might have said, well, PlanetSide 2 manages this as a free-to-play game, and why can't you guys? And obviously they've been, PlanetSide 2 turns out losing money for like 2 years, and then Sony finally managed to offload the company, and now the company's falling apart after that. And it's a big question to me. Is Dust was one of the first free-to-play games, or was it the first free-to-play game on console? Do you remember?
No.
No, it wasn't.
It was one of the first.
One of the, but
One of the.
if PlanetSide 2 can't make it, on a console environment, who's to say Dust can?
Well, it never actually got onto the console environment.
That's true.
That was all on PC. And they have an entirely different situation than what Dust has, because Dust is actually profiting. See, you have to consider those differences.
I would be cautious when you say the word profit, because if you described Dust or CCP Shanghai in the same terms you just did PlanetSide 2, it would. I mean, let's be real. There were some very large write-offs that were mostly involving Shanghai assets. So
I think a lot of that was World of Darkness, but the
which
thing
would be CCP Atlanta.
and yeah, but I mean the thing to bear in mind is that there's not I think if PlanetSide 2 is in trouble, that doesn't speak well to the success of the first person shooter free to play environment. So I think we're gonna have to see how that shakes out.
Well, there's problems with PlanetSide 2 from the start, and it just got
That does
worse.
not shock me.
It just got worse as the time went
I
because
don't know.
of
I
what they
tried it. I
put
thought it
in
was a
the
lot
game.
better than when I played it before, but
Ooh, it got worse.
Wait,
But,
Gordon, we've already established that you haven't played the game in like fucking 2 years. Okay, at least Zell
I mean,
got on.
yeah,
and
I got
Actually,
on and
I
played it.
did.
I got on and played it
try
during a show, and I'm like, this is
Um,
actually not too bad.
It
But
was November last year. I tried it and it was worse.
But I mean,
just know.
okay, so PlanetSide 2 had problems. So does Dust.
It
You
does,
know?
but it's like those were just bad. Like not even on Dust's level bad. It
I will
was
say-
worse than Dust.
I will say PlanetSide 2 on the PS4 has been, until I broke my DualShock 4, was actually fairly enjoyable.
I didn't like it. I actually like playing Dust, sort of, unless there's some sort of broken thing that just encounters me, in which case I rage. But PlanetSide 2 is just boring, and there's a whole bunch of problems with it.
Well, there's no
So-
there's no permanence to PlanetSide 2. There's no, I mean, just the persistency in terms of your character, but that's kind of about it. I mean,
Much of a risk,
yeah.
You don't have any money or nothing. In Dust, you buy everything that you use in battle. In PlanetSide 2, I think you pretty much just select whatever you want. Well, except for I think it's that heavy suit. I forgot what it's called. I haven't played
Max.
it. Yeah, the
Max.
Max. Yeah, yeah. I think you have. I don't know what you have to do to get that, or to get in that too. Yeah.
It's resources. It's like oh fuck that.
I mean,
Okay.
the short answer is that Dust has all of the architecture and a lot of the long game concepts pretty well down. I mean, there's a few games out there that have reached into the potential complexity that Dust can, but where Dust falls just incredibly lacking is the actual play experience and the delivery of those things. That's really where I think the issue came down for it. And I really didn't want to turn this. I didn't mean to have this be a fencing against other different games and platforms. It's just, it struck me like the difference and and the fact that ultimately, as a customer, eventually I'm going to make a decision, to move to a different game platform at some point anyway. I'm just trying to, it was one of those things that it struck me that the difference was so much bigger than what I thought it really was until I actually played the games. But as far as PlanetSide 2, I will grant you that in terms of large scale play, that's, I think, maybe the only one out there right now, although I want to say Loadout is supposedly kind of like, I don't know what the player count on Loadout is in terms of per match, but it's supposed to be fairly large.
There's modes that can get pretty big, but Loadout's just weird. This game's really fun though. I could say that if you like third-person shooters, you'd probably like Loadout.
Yeah, that's fair.
For me, the issue that I had with PlanetSide 2 was largely that I would go in and I would see the battle map, who had what territory, and it would never go anywhere. I mean, sure, you'd make a little bit of progress, into enemy territory, but you never got to capture their base. You never got to take them off the map until they enabled this new alert mode where, like, if you achieve a certain objective, that then you can capture an entire continent. And that's kind of lame, if you ask me. I mean, it's like you just go in, zerg that objective in a world where you don't really value what you are wearing, whereas in Dust, you really value your drop suit or your vehicle, because you work for it. It's an extremely important asset that is valuable, and that's one of the things I just didn't like about PlanetSide was that people were just throwing themselves at the objective in spite of whatever it may cost them. And it just felt like there was no objective to be made. It was just a Zerg fest all day, every day. Sit somewhere, find a good spot, and just farm. I like Dust better than PlanetSide.
One of the other things that Dust really excels in that I haven't seen in really any other FPS out there, though, is the social aspect to it. I mean, if the stuff as simple as the mail system and the chat windows, the way the corps are set up and all that stuff is just not, I mean, I think Warframe has some of that in terms of the chat windows and stuff, but I don't know. Like, I haven't seen, in terms of an FPS, I haven't seen that level of detail with the social aspect that Dust
definitely
has.
Not in game, definitely not cooked into it. I would definitely grant you that.
Yeah.
The one thing I would just offer is in reference to that, because that is one of the things I point to other people about one of the differences in Dust, or one of its kind of selling points, if you will, is I really do contribute a lot of that to the seed of the actual sort of first generation of Dust player, which were either A, a lot of mag people, which had a strong social component, or B, a lot of Eve people, which obviously has a big, strong social meta component to it. And I think that actually set the tone for the Dust community that we're still seeing now, although I would offer that's changing, because you have a lot of folks in that are what I would consider, it just feels like more of kind of your prototypical first-person shooter crowd, not so much meta-driven or not so much
Are you going to start
out-of-match
complaining
driven.
about casuals?
And I will not pull a victor on you, although it will, in all honesty, there's a lot of people that literally anything that we did like 12 months ago, like the meta or the out-of-match gameplay in Dust was very rich, whereas now it's kind of non-existent.
Well,
I think it's because a lot of
there's-
guys left.
There's no reason for meta because PC is a vacuum of fail.
No, I agree, and you, I think that's kind of my point though. Is like it's just there's nothing really that sets it apart socially anymore. That was one of the things that set Eve apart from other games.
Which is why they want to fix it.
Yeah, and I'm all about that.
I think that's a big reason for the PC revamp being a major goal, and hopefully, if that succeeds, some of that can come back.
No,
I
and
think
that's a fair point.
A thing about that is a lot of people who were about the social aspects of the game left, and then new people came in, but they didn't, or they're not accustomed to that, so they don't really do it. So
it really is going to boil down to how the PC revamp goes. I mean, right now we've got like what's listed on 1.1. We've got the earning of command points coming back, and command points for clone selling, and command points for district attacks. I mean, some really key things that could actually heat things up pretty significantly in the planetary conquest domain. It's just a matter of if they land well and when they actually land.
No, I totally agree, guys. I think I think we're definitely in kind of a, it's kind of easy to say we're in a quote unquote critical point for Dust, but
have we ever not been at a critical point?
Well, no,
for
that's
Dust?
kind of what I was. That's kind of what I don't know that we ever haven't been. It just, I think the pressure of the new platform is different now, and it's only going to get steeper because what's going to happen inevitably is as you go through this calendar year and you get closer to like first quarter 16, i.e., fall and Christmas time. That's when you really are going to. I think that's really going to be kind of quote unquote do or die time
Blunt
for
honesty,
a lot of people.
I don't think the PS4 matters. And before you jump on me, here's what I think is the problem, the real problem. I think the PS4 is a distraction from the actual point that people's PS3s have a tendency to die because they're really, really crummy built consoles, and they're old.
PS4 matters because that's what people will buy when they die.
But the point is I don't think this magical PS4 adoption rate is the problem. It's the fact that the PS3 is old, and they're faulty hardware.
I mean, just quiet.
Like,
that's such a political way of phrasing that.
No, I'm saying if the machine was, if the hardware was not failing, people would still play their PS3s whether or not the PS4 was like the top selling console in history and sold like 600 billion copies. It still wouldn't matter if it wasn't for the fact that the PS3 is just outright failing as a piece of hardware.
Let me put it this way. Pretty much every game console I've ever bought, I had whatever the last generation one, like, still working the day that I went and bought the new one. Does that make sense what I'm saying? It's not about... there is an adoption rate because at some point, a lot of the things that you're going to want to play and try aren't going to be on the old busted. It will be on the new hotness. That's not evil. That's literally just how game consoles work.
I'd also like to point something out that back in what was that called, CCP Vegas or something? It's their Vegas Fest. Back
Vegas.
Laser focused.
2013, I think it was. It was asked if Dust was going to be ported to the PS4, and their response was there are still X amount of PS3s in the world, and there aren't that many PS4s. Well, and it was like somewhere in like 10 million PS3s and only a couple 100,000 PS4s or something. I don't know, but anyway. I was reading an article somewhere that PS4s are now upwards in like the millions, and
I think it's like 13 million.
Yeah,
sold.
but there were like 80 million PS3s was the number, I believe. So, but whether or not people are still playing them is a more valid point than how many have been sold total as well. So,
but another point is that where we that would be a good standpoint if we actually had like 80 million players, but we don't. And most, I think it's safe to say that most Dust players have a PS4, if not are very close to getting one. And I had heard from who was it? Bam Havoc, that Dust 514 was confirmed for PS4. Does anyone have any truth to that?
No, it's just...
that, man. Master of tinfoil and bacon.
I listened to the whole interview, and it was never actually confirmed, but just strongly hinted at.
Hinted, yes, but Bam Havoc is like the internet. You shouldn't believe everything he says.
I mean, look, to me, the sunshine, rainbows, and roses outcome for me, it would be this year. all of these, Rattati hits all of his goals for 2015. He gets Dust running like a well-oiled machine, and then, people are still, maybe the PCU is going up, maybe it's not, but Dust is put into a place where maybe it would be an attractive option to actually move over to something like the PS4. But I think we all kind of feel it, that Dust still isn't quite there yet in terms of where it would actually warrant a port.
That's fair. I'd still want one, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's no, and Kane is spot on in this. Was like, trust me, if you're in this channel talking, you all want it. Like, we all want that, but we're also a very, very small minority in terms of the grand population that are out there playing. And that is kind of that's just the reality of it. As much as I have enjoyed Dust and enjoyed the social experiences from it, and the gameplay. I mean, some of the best competitive gameplay I've had in any game, because I like playing with more than 4 people, basically. The reality is it's still a very small niche game that either A, not a lot of people have heard of, or B, certainly not a lot of people stick around for. And it's just dated, and it's not as good as it could be because they're not going to put the dev assets against it to make it that way. Even though that now I think we actually have the leadership and the focus at Shanghai to actually turn it into what we wanted. I think it just feels like it's just in this really bad limbo position right now.
Let's get it out of it then.
Well, see, the thing though is, like, if you look at, let's say, like 13 million PS4s have been sold, all it would take is a 3% adoption rate of people playing Dust on the PS4s to actually exceed the current monthly population that we have.
Dang. Oh, that tickled me.
Okay, well, I think we've kind of batted this one around quite a bit, and I'm sure at some point, CCP Rattati's got like CCP freaking stopwatch over there, listening to the podcast, trying to figure out how many times that Iron Wolf and Zell should have, thrown out like their standard PR taglines. So, and I say that jokingly. I am just kind of joking at that mostly, at least for Iron Wolf. So let's go ahead and kind of wrap this one up, guys. What I would like to do is maybe go through some quick shout outs real quick. And if we've got a lot of people to do shout outs, so feel free to address whoever or whatever you want to a certain degree. And then we'll probably call that a night. So we're going to start with the top all the way up there with Lethargic, and then work our way down on the list. And like I said, just give me a good shout out, and if you got like a hot topic or something you want us to talk about next week, or anything that's on your mind. So Lethargic, you're up, brother.
My shout out / topic would be, I want a subsystem for my war barge, like an Eve cargo expander to allow me to increase my production capacity, so that I don't have to do it every 2 days. But yeah, awesome podcast.
Thank you, man. And actually, by the way, great idea. I'm a huge fan of using some different subsystems. I mean, heck, we got 14 slots and we're only using like 5 of them. Gand?
I don't really have a shout out, but I guess maybe a topic I would sort of like to discuss, sort of maybe some old stuff, like maybe the early days of Dust, if we don't really have any more news next week, just saying.
Sure, memory lane episode. That might be something we could work into. Godin?
Shout out to all the dropship pilots who thinks I'm an idiot, even though I've been here since day one.
Alrighty. Iron Wolf.
Shout out to Blackbird Interactive for reviving one of my most favorite games of all time for PC, which will be Homeworld.
Woo! Ew.
Cool. And Jadek?
Shout out to the Dust 514 Poker Club. I won again this week, 3rd straight time. I need some more competition, so come at me, Rose.
If that was blackjack, I would join in a heartbeat.
Okay. And by the way, for everybody, that if you want a good Twitter follow, if you follow Jadek Menaheim, he is a good source of very interesting content on Twitter. I'm a big fan of Twitter myself, and you actually are really, really good at digging out a lot of stuff from DeviantArt and Imgur and things like that, and occasionally some different paste bins and things like that. So really good content in terms of images or interesting art pieces that are probably relevant to some of our the things that we are attracted to in either gaming or fiction. So shout out to @Jadek Menaheim on Twitter. Let's see, Kane Spero.
Again, just shout out to the Crazy Dust community that continues to support this game. Also, shout out to Negative Feedback Alliance.
All right. Let's see, Pokey.
Just one thing that I wanted to mention that I forgot to mention earlier in the show. One thing that Rattati happened to respond to is a request for a Mordu's Legion skin for the early closed beta vets if the skin system ever comes in. So just something that'd be kind of cool, and I'd love to see that.
Awesome. That's a good idea. Soraya?
I'm giving a shout out to my realtor because I am so glad that this whole process is done and over with.
All right. Let's see. Random shout outs. Okay. Everybody that came on tonight, really appreciate it. So quick shout out to you. For everybody that does, download our podcast or listen live, for the few that do listen live, we really appreciate that. And like I said, 41 weeks ago, which was the week of FanFest, by the way, there was a lot of discussions. We had, like, the week prior to FanFest, we had talked about getting a podcast together, and we had some very serious discussions about even doing one after the FanFest extravaganza, the Rouge wedding, if you will. Which I'm absolutely positive he probably hates that term, and I apologize for that. But 41 weeks is not quite a year, but it's a long stretch for a podcast. The majority of podcasts really don't last that long. So whether you agree with anything that we say, whether we entertain you, and I certainly hope that we do, like entertain you, whether you agree with this or not is totally secondary, but I would offer that we are probably a good microcosm of why Dust is different, and that you don't, and it really tucks into the social discussion that we had a little bit about what sets the game differently. This podcast is really for the community that we are part of, and that's really what it comes down to. And it's a very small community, very tight-knit community. It almost, in a very odd way, it reminds me of like living in a big college dorm where you see people, them, like you'll see people in game that you've read about in forums, and you try to like have a voice or a face to the words that you read, or maybe you've met them on comms and you find out they're totally different than how they post, or in some people's case you find out they really are as big of an asshole or a dumbass as they are in text as they are in person. I would say rarely, but there's a few out there. So, but we're definitely an amalgam of what the community is, and I would like to say a shout out to the community, which has got me more interested in this game than I've been in any other game, even though there's actually a lot of other games I enjoyed physically playing better, but those were usually games I played solo, with myself. So as much as I enjoy playing something like Skyrim, it's a totally different experience than what I got from playing with Dust. So shout out to the community. And I would be totally remiss if I did not shout out to CCP for imagining the game, having, dare I say, the courage to even try to put the game out and keep the game going as long as it has been. Even, frankly, when it probably, in some, you could make a good argument that it might have been better to cut their losses and make the game go away. So shout out to the community and shout out to CCP. And with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and bring episode 41 of Biomassed to a close. So, as I have been saying, and as I will continue to say, at least until I find a new catchphrase that I can rip off from